When you are facing serious criminal charges, we are talking about 4 counts of child endangerment and 4 counts of false imprisonment. The absolute last person you would ever want representing you in a court of law is the exact same guy who famously lost Josh Duggar's federal child pornography case. It is the ultimate legal self-own. Why would anyone in their right mind trust the attorney who watched the golden boy of the Duggar family get shipped off to a federal penitentiary in Texas for over 12 long years? Yet, in a shocking, unprecedented move that has completely shattered the illusion of the united Duggar front, Kendra Duggar just hired that exact lawyer, Travis Story. But she didn't hire him to save her husband, Joseph. In a massive, completely selfish, and utterly brilliant twist, Kendra hired the Duggar family's ultimate fixer exclusively for herself. Before we dive into the leaked jailhouse audio, the secret family meetings, and the insider reports about Jim Bob Duggar's sinister master plan to protect his massive fortune, you need to do me a huge favor. If you are as obsessed with the total collapse of the 19 kids and counting empire as I am, you need to smash that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. Hitting that like button tells the YouTube algorithm to push this video out to more people, and subscribing ensures you never miss a single piece of breaking Duggar news. We are uncovering exclusive theories and insider reports that you absolutely won't hear anywhere else. So hit subscribe, turn on those notification bells, and let's get into the absolute madness of this legal betrayal. To truly understand the magnitude of what Kendra Duggar has just done, we have to travel back in time and look at what we like to call the golden era of the Duggar family's legal strategy. In the Duggar world, the family does not operate as individuals. They operate as a single, highly fortified, unified legal entity. When trouble strikes, and let's be honest, trouble is always striking the Duggar family, Jim Bob is the one who writes the checks. Jim Bob is the one who hires the lawyers. And Jim Bob is the one who dictates the entire defense strategy for the entire family. Husbands and wives are expected to stand united against what they claim is the persecution of the secular world. We all saw exactly how this played out with Josh and Anna Duggar. When Josh was facing the most horrific, indefensible charges imaginable, Anna was right there by his side. She walked into that courthouse every single day, holding his hand, portraying the perfect, submissive, standing by her man image that Jim Bob absolutely demands from the women in his family. The narrative is always the same. We are a united front, our marriages are unbreakable covenants, and we will fight the system together. But this unified front is nothing more than a carefully crafted false image. It is a PR shield designed to protect the patriarch's assets and his brand. If you marry into the Duggar family, you are essentially signing away your right to independent thought, and more importantly, your right to independent legal counsel. The Duggar legal machine is designed to protect the Duggar name above all else. It is not designed to protect the wives. It is certainly not designed to protect the children. It is designed to keep Jim Bob in power. And for years, this strategy worked. It kept the family in line. It kept the secrets buried within the walls of the sprawling Duggar compound. But the foundation of this legal fortress was built on sand, and the very first cracks began to show during Josh Duggar's trial. We all saw how Jim Bob handled Josh's federal case. It was a masterclass in deflection, denial, and throwing obscene amounts of money at a completely doomed cause. Jim Bob threw millions of dollars at a sprawling legal team, prominently featuring Travis Story, to try and get the case dismissed on absurd technicalities. They tried to blame a mysterious French hacker. They tried to point the finger at a family friend. They tried to suppress evidence based on procedural arguments about how the router was seized. Travis Story and the rest of the defense team completely disregarded the safety and the dignity of the victims in favor of trying to find a loophole big enough for Josh to slip through. The entire Duggar legal strategy was exposed for the world to see. It is all about protecting the patriarch's golden child and shielding the family's assets, not about finding the truth, and certainly not about taking accountability. Those were the ignored warnings. Anyone paying attention could see that Travis Story was Jim Bob's ultimate yes man, a legal fixer who was more concerned with keeping the Duggar empire afloat than providing a competent, objective criminal defense. Travis Story is deeply entrenched in Duggar lore. He didn't just represent Josh. He was the attorney Jim Bob and Michelle used to acquire custody of their great-nephew Tyler years ago. He handles their business matters, their real estate disputes, and their tax entities. He is the ultimate insider. So when a new, unimaginable scandal rocked the family, everyone simply assumed the old playbook would be dusted off and put into action. Enter the catalyst, the action that sparked the sudden, spectacular downfall of Joseph and Kendra Duggar. In March 2026, the unthinkable happened. Joseph Duggar, the supposedly quiet, rule-following, perfectly obedient seventh child, is arrested on horrific charges of lewd and lascivious behavior, stemming from an alleged incident in Florida back in 2020 involving a 9-year-old girl. The details of the arrest affidavit are absolutely stomach-churning. But the nightmare didn't end with Joseph being hauled off to the Washington County Detention Center to await extradition. Because 2 days after Joseph's arrest, the Arkansas Department of Human Services and the Tontitown Police Department raided Joseph and Kendra's home. And what they found during that home inspection was so deeply disturbing that it led to Kendra Duggar getting slapped with her own criminal charges. 4 counts of endangering the welfare of a minor and 4 counts of false imprisonment. According to insider reports and exclusive theories pieced together from local sources, the authorities discovered locks on the exterior of the bedroom doors. Let that sink in. Locks on the outside of the doors, allegedly used to trap their own children inside. The fallout was instantaneous. Kendra was arrested, booked, and took her own mugshot. This was the exact moment the illusion shattered. Kendra realized in real time that her husband's rapidly sinking ship was dragging her down into the dark, murky depths with him. She was no longer just the smiling, giggling, submissive wife standing in the background while her husband faced the music. She was now a criminal defendant herself, facing up to 8 years in prison if convicted of these egregious charges. She was facing the very real, terrifying possibility of losing her 4 children entirely. And she knew exactly what the Duggar legal machine would do to her if she stayed tethered to Joseph. She had seen how Anna Duggar's life had been completely destroyed by standing by a monster. She had seen how the family prioritizes the men and sacrifices the women to the media wolves. Joseph, sitting in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day with nothing but his Bible, likely assumed that Jim Bob would swoop in to save the day, just like the good old days. He probably thought his father would hire a massive, expensive legal team to defend them both as a united front. He thought his wife would stand by his side at the defense table, nodding along as their shared lawyers tried to spin a narrative of a misunderstood, persecuted Christian family. He thought the Duggar money would buy their way out of this nightmare, wrapping them both in a protective bubble of high-priced legal jargon and technical dismissals. But Joseph severely underestimated the survival instincts of a mother pushed to the absolute brink. Kendra was not about to become the next Anna Duggar. According to exclusive insider theories, the moment Kendra bonded out of jail, she went rogue. She didn't wait for Jim Bob to call a family meeting. She didn't wait for permission. She immediately sought independent legal counsel. And she didn't just hire any lawyer. She went straight to the heart of the Duggar machine. She hired Travis Story. Now, on the surface, this makes absolutely zero sense. Why hire the guy who failed to save Josh? But when you dig into the insider reports, a brilliant, cutthroat strategy begins to emerge. By hiring Travis Story, Kendra isn't just getting a lawyer. She is ripping Jim Bob's most trusted weapon right out of his hands and pointing it directly back at the family. She is securing the one man who knows where all the Duggar bodies are buried, the one man who knows exactly how the family's money is hidden, and the one man who knows every single dirty trick Jim Bob has ever pulled. This brings us to the leak. The absolute bombshell exposure that caught Joseph completely off guard and sent shockwaves through the entire Duggar fan base. The court case recordings. During a monitored, highly publicized jailhouse phone call obtained by the media, the truth finally comes out. Joseph, completely oblivious to his wife's covert maneuvers, begins the conversation by warning Kendra that they can't talk about much on the recorded line. He then asks her if attorney Travis Story has gotten a hold of her. Joseph clearly assumes that Travis is calling on behalf of Jim Bob, ready to set up their joint defense. Kendra's response is a masterclass in cold, calculated detachment. She bluntly informs Joseph, "I've been talking to Travis. I've got him as my attorney now. I wasn't sure if you knew that. I've asked him to be my attorney." Joseph, still painfully naive to the reality of his situation, replies, "I wasn't sure who we settled with, but this guy's good." He literally says the word we. He thinks they are in this together. He thinks Travis' story is going to save their marriage and their family. And then, Kendra drops the hammer. She completely severs the cord. She tells him point blank in a voice completely devoid of that trademark Duggar sweetness, "Well, it's not for you. It's only for me." Boom. Let that echo in your mind for a second. It's not for you. It's only for me. In a single sentence, Kendra Duggar officially destroyed the unified Duggar front. She legally, emotionally, and publicly abandoned her husband to face his felony charges completely alone. She made it crystal clear that she needed someone for the case they had going with the kids, and she was not about to let Joseph's horrific crimes taint her defense. This was the ultimate betrayal in the eyes of the Duggar patriarchy. A wife refusing to submit. A wife securing her own legal armor and leaving her husband exposed to the elements. The scramble that followed this leaked audio was unprecedented. Damage control went into immediate overdrive. The media instantly realized what was happening. Kendra had hired Travis Story exclusively for her own defense. Jim Bob's go-to legal fixer, the man who had spent years protecting the Duggar brand, was now actively working to separate Kendra's misdemeanor child endangerment charges from Joseph's highly radioactive, completely indefensible felony molestation case. But here is where the exclusive theories and reports get incredibly juicy. Who is paying Travis Story's retainer? Travis Story does not come cheap. We are talking about a high-powered, high-priced attorney. Kendra, as a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids under the age of 7, doesn't exactly have millions of dollars sitting in a personal checking account. So, who signed the check? This is where the wildest insider theory comes into play. What if Jim Bob Duggar is actually the one paying Travis Story to represent Kendra? Why would he do that? Because Jim Bob knows that Joseph is a lost cause. The evidence against Joseph is allegedly insurmountable. He reportedly confessed to the victim's father on a recorded line, with a detective listening in. He is facing extradition to Florida. He is looking at serious prison time. Jim Bob cannot save Joseph, but Jim Bob can save the family money. If Kendra goes down with Joseph, if they are convicted together, they are open to massive civil lawsuits. The victims could sue them for everything they are worth. But if Kendra separates herself, if she claims she was manipulated, if she claims she was just following Joseph's orders regarding the exterior locks on the doors, she might be able to strike a plea deal. She might walk away with probation. And more importantly, she might retain custody of those 4 Duggar grandchildren. Jim Bob cannot stand the thought of losing control over his grandchildren. He also cannot stand the thought of a messy, public divorce where Kendra hires an outside shark attorney who subpoenas his financial records. By paying for Travis Story to represent Kendra, Jim Bob keeps the entire situation completely contained. He controls the narrative. He ensures that Kendra's defense doesn't accidentally expose any other Duggar secrets. Travis Story's job isn't just to keep Kendra out of jail. His job is to expertly, surgically remove Kendra from Joseph's sinking ship, while ensuring that the Duggar family fortune remains completely untouched by civil litigation. It is a brilliant, ruthless, and entirely plausible strategy. Think about the ultimate irony of this situation. Travis Story, the man who utterly failed to keep Josh Duggar out of federal prison, the man who has been the punchline of every Duggar legal joke for the past 4 years, is now the exact weapon Kendra is using to ensure her own survival. She is using Jim Bob's failed fixer to guarantee that Joseph goes to prison while she walks free. It is a level of Machiavellian game playing that we never, ever expected from the girl who used to just giggle on a couch on TLC. She is preparing to throw Joseph completely under the bus to save herself and her custody rights, and she is using the family's own lawyer to drive the bus. The isolation of Joseph Duggar is complete. Even his own aunt, Deanna Duggar, has publicly stated that Kendra needs to divorce him and start a new life. The walls are closing in, the family is fracturing, and the golden era of the unified Duggar legal defense is dead and buried. This is just the tip of the iceberg, guys. The rabbit hole goes so much deeper, and the implications for the rest of the family are staggering. But before we move on to the next major revelation about what exactly was found inside that house during the raid, and how Travis Story plans to twist the narrative in court, I need you to brace yourselves. The next part of this story involves secret real estate transfers, desperate attempts to hide assets, and a legal maneuver so shady it will make your head spin. You will not believe what our insider reports are saying about Joseph's reaction when he finally realized the true extent of Kendra's betrayal. When Joseph Duggar sat in that freezing, concrete solitary confinement cell and finally processed the words, "It's only for me," our insider reports suggest that a complete and total psychological collapse took place. For his entire life, Joseph had been conditioned to believe that the Duggar family was an impenetrable fortress. He was raised to believe that as a man, as a husband, and as a son of Jim Bob Duggar, he was essentially untouchable. The patriarch would always protect him. The money would always be there to build a wall between him and the consequences of his actions. But as the dial tone echoed in his ear after Kendra abruptly ended that now infamous leaked phone call, the horrifying reality finally set in. He wasn't just facing decades in a Florida state penitentiary for heinous crimes against a minor. He had been entirely cut off from the family's life support system. He was officially the sacrificial lamb. And the most terrifying part for Joseph wasn't just that Kendra was leaving him. It was that she was taking the family's most lethal legal weapon with her to do it. But to truly grasp the sheer, calculated brilliance of what is happening behind the scenes, we have to look at the money. We always have to look at the money when it comes to Jim Bob Duggar. According to exclusive theories and heavily guarded insider leaks coming out of Northwest Arkansas, the days immediately following Joseph's arrest were not spent weeping and praying. They were spent furiously shuffling assets. This is where Travis Story's real expertise comes into play. You see, while the public knows Travis Story as the lawyer who failed to keep Josh Duggar out of federal prison, his actual specialty, his real value to Jim Bob Duggar, is in real estate, tax law, and corporate shielding. Travis Story is the architect of the Duggar family's complex web of LLCs and shell companies, and reports allege that the moment the Florida authorities issued that warrant for Joseph, a frantic, highly coordinated scramble began to legally separate Joseph from every single dime of the Duggar fortune before the civil lawsuits could drop. Think about it. The victim's family in Florida is absolutely going to sue. And if Joseph and Kendra are a married, unified entity, all of their shared assets, their property, their bank accounts, and potentially even assets tied to the broader Duggar family trusts could be vulnerable to massive, multi-million-dollar judgments. Jim Bob Duggar is terrified of discovery. He is terrified of a civil attorney gaining the power to subpoena his financial records and expose exactly how the family money is funneled, hidden, and controlled. So what is the ultimate master plan? You legally annihilate Joseph's financial standing. Insider theories suggest that secret real estate transfers were quietly executed in the dead of night. Properties that were once in Joseph's name or jointly owned by Joseph and Kendra were allegedly and very suddenly shifted into blind trusts or newly minted LLCs controlled entirely by Jim Bob. And who do you think is drafting the paperwork for these alleged midnight asset transfers? Travis Story. By paying Travis to represent Kendra, Jim Bob isn't just buying her a defense. He is buying an ironclad firewall. Travis Story is allegedly orchestrating a legal maneuver so shady and so complex that it will make your head spin. The theory is that Travis is structuring Kendra's inevitable divorce from Joseph in a way that allows her to claim all the remaining marital assets as part of a settlement for her and the 4 children, leaving Joseph completely destitute on paper. When the civil suits inevitably hit, Joseph will have absolutely nothing to his name. He will be a penniless inmate sitting in a Florida prison cell, and the Duggar family fortune, safely tucked away behind Kendra's newly acquired assets and Jim Bob's shell companies, will remain utterly untouchable. Joseph didn't just lose his wife on that phone call. He lost his entire financial existence. He was stripped of his armor and left naked on the battlefield by the very people who promised to protect him. Now let's talk about the raid. Because the details of what went down when the Taneytown Police Department and the Arkansas Department of Human Services breached the doors of Joseph and Kendra's home are the darkest, most disturbing pieces of this entire puzzle. We already know from the initial bombshell reports that authorities found locks on the exterior of the children's bedroom doors. That alone was enough to warrant 4 felony counts of false imprisonment and 4 counts of child endangerment against both parents. But leaks from sources close to the local law enforcement investigation suggest that the exterior locks were just the tip of a very horrifying iceberg. These insider theories allege that when investigators bypassed those exterior locks and stepped into the children's rooms, they did not find a normal, loving environment. They allegedly found rooms completely stripped of standard furniture. No toys, no comfort items, just the absolute bare, Spartan minimum. The report suggests an environment that looked less like a nursery and more like a holding cell. But why? Why would Joseph and Kendra, a couple who built their entire public persona on being sweet, loving Christian parents, allegedly subject their own toddlers to such extreme, draconian measures? This is where the twisted teachings of the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or IBLP, the radical fundamentalist cult the Duggars follow, come crashing into the criminal justice system. And this is exactly how Travis' story plans to twist the narrative in court to ensure Kendra walks away totally scot-free while Joseph takes the ultimate fall. The IBLP teaches strict, unquestioning obedience. It teaches that children must have their wills broken early and often. It teaches blanket training, where infants are allegedly struck with flexible rulers or plumbing lines if they crawl off a designated blanket. It is a system built entirely on control and physical discipline. Travis' story's master stroke, according to these explosive insider theories, is going to be the ultimate submissive wife defense. He is allegedly preparing to argue that Kendra Duggar had absolutely zero agency in her own home. He will paint a picture of Joseph as a rigid, authoritarian tyrant who took the cult's teachings to a sickening extreme. Travis' story, who knows the IBLP doctrine better than anyone, is going to use Jim Bob's own religion as a weapon against Joseph. He will argue that Kendra was essentially a hostage herself, a brainwashed, terrified young woman who was religiously conditioned to never, ever question her husband's authority. If Joseph wanted locks on the outside of the doors, Kendra was biblically commanded to submit. If Joseph demanded the rooms be stripped bare as a form of extreme discipline, Kendra had no power to stop it. Do you see the absolute terrifying genius of this strategy? By turning Joseph into the fundamentalist boogeyman, Travis' story completely absolves Kendra of criminal intent. How can you be charged with false imprisonment if you were entirely under the coercive control of your husband? Travis will parade psychological experts into that courtroom to testify about the devastating effects of IBLP conditioning on women. He will frame Kendra as a victim of a patriarchal system that stripped her of her ability to protect her own children. And the wildest part is that Jim Bob Duggar, the architect of that very patriarchal system, is allegedly footing the bill for this exact defense. Jim Bob is willing to let his own religion be dragged through the mud. He is willing to let his son be painted as a controlling monster, all to ensure that Kendra avoids a felony conviction, retains custody of those 4 Duggar grandchildren, and keeps the family's dirty financial secrets out of the hands of civil lawyers. When Joseph realized this, when the reality of Travis' story representing Kendra finally clicked in his isolated cell, our reports state that he completely lost it. He allegedly demanded to use the phone, frantically trying to reach his father, trying to reach his brothers, trying to reach anyone who would still take his call. But the calls went to voicemail. The Duggar machine had officially cut him off. He is toxic waste. He is a liability that can no longer be contained, managed, or spun for reality television. Jim Bob threw millions at Josh because Josh was the golden child, the chosen successor, the one who held the keys to the kingdom. Joseph is just the 7th son. He is expendable. And the moment his arrest threatened to expose the family to massive financial ruin and child endangerment investigations, Jim Bob pulled the plug without a second thought. But Kendra is not just passively letting this happen. The girl we all thought was just a giggling, naive teenager when she married into this family has evolved into a fiercely calculating survivor. Rumors are swirling that Kendra is actively working with authorities. Think about it. If you are facing up to 8 years in prison and the loss of your kids, and your high-priced lawyer is setting up a defense blaming your husband, what is the next logical step? You offer the prosecution everything they need to nail Joseph to the wall in exchange for full immunity. There are explosive, exclusive theories circulating right now that Kendra has agreed to hand over Joseph's personal devices, his journals, and any encrypted hard drives that the police might have missed during the initial raid. She knows exactly where he hides his secrets. She lived with the man. If Joseph was engaging in the sickening behavior he is accused of in Florida, it is highly probable he slipped up at home. Kendra holding Travis Story's leash means she holds the power to completely destroy whatever remains of Joseph's defense. She can testify against him. She can verify his handwriting. She can confirm his whereabouts on specific dates. She is the ultimate star witness for the prosecution, wrapped in a neat, conservative, Duggar-approved package. And Travis Story will be standing right beside her, whispering in her ear, ensuring she only gives up enough to bury Joseph, while carefully protecting any collateral damage that might accidentally implicate Jim Bob or the rest of the family. It is a surgical strike. They are cutting out the cancer to save the host. But what happens when the cancer realizes it's being excised? Will Joseph go quietly into the night? Or will he decide that if he is going down, he is taking the entire Duggar empire with him? Because let me tell you, if Joseph Duggar decides to flip on his own father, the entire landscape of this scandal changes overnight. What does Joseph know about Josh's trial? What does Joseph know about the family's tax evasions, their hidden shell companies, or the hush money payments? He grew up in that house. He knows exactly how Jim Bob operates. If Joseph is cornered, desperate, and realizes his own wife and father have plotted to leave him with absolutely nothing, he might just become the most dangerous informant the state of Arkansas has ever seen. This legal chess match is escalating at a speed we have never witnessed in the Duggar universe. The unified front is a smoldering pile of ashes. It is every man, woman, and child for themselves. We are watching the real-time, highly litigious destruction of a television dynasty, but we are not done yet. You think the betrayal of hiring Travis Story was the peak of this drama? You have absolutely no idea what is coming next. The insider reports about the impending divorce filings, the brutal, mudslinging custody battle that is currently being drafted, and the absolute final, devastating blow Kendra is preparing to deliver to the Duggar family name will leave you utterly speechless. The gloves are completely off, and Kendra Duggar is out for blood. The gloves are completely off, and Kendra Duggar is out for blood. The absolute final, devastating blow that she is preparing to deliver to the Duggar family name isn't just about avoiding a felony conviction or dodging a prison sentence. It is about total, unrestricted, and highly litigious annihilation. According to insider reports leaking out of the Washington County Courthouse, the divorce papers are already drafted. They are sitting on a desk, fully baked, legally ironclad, and just waiting for the exact right tactical moment to be filed. And let me tell you, this is not going to be some quiet, amicable, closed-door settlement where they cite irreconcilable differences and walk away holding hands for the sake of the children. This is going to be the most vicious, mudslinging, publicly humiliating divorce the reality television world has ever witnessed. And the man holding the pen, the man allegedly drafting the very documents that will legally execute Joseph Duggar's marriage, is Travis Story. Think about the psychological warfare of that for a second. Jim Bob Duggar's closest legal confidant, the man who has sat at the Duggar dining room table for years, the man who has engineered their business empires, is now allegedly constructing the legal guillotine for Jim Bob's own son. Theories suggest that the upcoming divorce petition is going to be a bloodbath. Kendra is reportedly not just asking for a divorce, she is demanding full, sole, physical, and legal custody of all 4 children. She is allegedly demanding that Joseph be stripped of all parental rights, requesting that any future visitation, if he isn't locked in a federal penitentiary for the rest of his natural life, be strictly supervised by court-appointed armed professionals. She is painting a picture of a man so deeply disturbed, so fundamentally dangerous, that he cannot be trusted to be in the same room as his own offspring without a police presence. And she is using the criminal charges he faces in Florida, coupled with the horrific child endangerment charges from the Arkansas raid, as the ultimate indisputable ammunition. Travis' story is brilliantly positioning this divorce so that Kendra looks like the ultimate protective mother. The narrative they are allegedly spinning is that she woke up from the cult-like fog of the IBLP, saw the monster she was married to, and took immediate, decisive action to save her babies. This rebranding of Kendra from a sweet, submissive, fundy wife into a fierce, protective mama bear fighting against a patriarchal nightmare is a PR masterstroke. But it is a masterstroke funded, engineered, and controlled by the very patriarch she is supposedly fighting against. This brings us to the most insidious, jaw-dropping, exclusive theory of this entire saga. Why is Jim Bob allowing this? Why is he allegedly paying Travis' story to help Kendra completely obliterate his son in family court? Because Jim Bob Duggar is playing a game of three-dimensional legal chess, and he is terrified of what Kendra could do if she goes rogue. Jim Bob watched his daughters, Jill and Ginger, break away from the family, write explosive tell-all books, and star in massive streaming documentaries that completely shredded his reputation and exposed the dark, abusive underbelly of the Institute in Basic Life Principles. He watched his empire crumble because he lost control of the narrative. He knows that Kendra, as the wife of a newly disgraced, arrested son, is sitting on a goldmine of catastrophic secrets. She knows what goes on behind the gates of the Duggar compound. She knows how Jim Bob handled Joseph's initial behavioral red flags. She knows exactly how the family's money is shuffled around to avoid taxes and civil liabilities. If Kendra were to hire an outside, aggressive Hollywood divorce attorney, someone who doesn't care about the Duggar brand, someone who wants to make a name for themselves by taking down Jim Bob, she could subpoena everything. She could demand Jim Bob's financial records. She could compel Jim Bob and Michelle to sit for brutal, on-the-record depositions. She could sign a $1 million book deal with a major publisher tomorrow and completely destroy whatever tiny shred of legacy Jim Bob has left. Jim Bob cannot afford a wild card. So, what does he do? According to these explosive insider reports, he buys her silence. The theory is that Jim Bob is fully funding Travis Story's representation of Kendra under one massive, non-negotiable condition: an ironclad, airtight, lifetime non-disclosure agreement. In exchange for walking away with the house, the cars, full custody of the kids, a massive financial settlement quietly paid out through a shell LLC, and a defense team that guarantees she avoids prison time, Kendra must sign away her right to ever speak publicly about the Duggar family. She is allegedly being bought off. Travis Story isn't just representing her in criminal court. He is acting as Jim Bob's enforcer. He is there to ensure that Kendra's defense destroys Joseph, but strictly stops at Joseph. The firewall must hold. Joseph goes down, Kendra gets the money and the kids, and Jim Bob's secrets remain safely buried in the Ozarks. But there is a massive, incredibly dangerous flaw in this master plan, and that flaw is Joseph Duggar himself. You see, the Duggar men are arrogant. They are raised to believe they are the ultimate authorities, untouchable and supreme. When Joseph realizes that he has been entirely abandoned, when he is served with those vicious divorce papers in his jail cell, when he sees Travis Story's signature on the documents, when he realizes his father has chosen to protect the money over his own flesh and blood, he is not just going to roll over and accept a 20-year prison sentence. Rumors are already swirling that Joseph is entering the mutually assured destruction phase of this nightmare. If you back a cornered, desperate man into a wall and strip him of his family, his money, and his freedom, he becomes the most dangerous person in the room. What leverage does Joseph have left? He has the truth. Insider leaks from sources close to the detention center suggest that Joseph has been frantically trying to arrange meetings with his own court-appointed public defender, practically begging to open lines of communication with the state and federal prosecutors. The theory is that Joseph is threatening to trigger a dead man's switch. If Jim Bob and Kendra are going to throw him to the wolves, he is going to make sure the wolves eat the entire family. What could Joseph possibly offer the prosecutors? Oh, the possibilities are endless and absolutely terrifying for the Duggar empire. Joseph grew up in the inner circle. He was there during the Josh Duggar scandals. He was there when the Department of Homeland Security raided the car lot. He knows exactly who knew what and when they knew it. Theories suggest that Joseph might be offering to testify about Jim Bob's direct knowledge of Josh's crimes long before the authorities ever got involved. He might be offering to expose a massive, coordinated cover-up orchestrated by Jim Bob to hide assets, evade taxes, and silence victims within their own religious community. Furthermore, Joseph knows everything about Travis Story's alleged financial shell games. Because Joseph was previously listed as an officer or a managing member on several of those Duggar-affiliated LLCs, he knows where the money is buried. Imagine the sheer panic gripping the Duggar compound right now. Jim Bob thought he had brilliantly contained the situation by controlling Kendra through Travis' story, but he completely miscalculated the wrath of a betrayed son. The exclusive rumor currently setting the internet on fire is that a grand jury subpoena might be imminent, not just for Joseph's crimes, but for Jim Bob's financial records, all triggered by Joseph himself attempting to cut a plea deal with the feds. It is a literal race to the bottom. Kendra is racing to finalize the divorce and secure her immunity deal by blaming Joseph's radical religious beliefs for the horrific conditions found in their home. Jim Bob is racing to hide the assets and enforce the NDA through Travis' Story before the civil lawsuits completely bankrupt him. And Joseph is racing to flip on his own father before the Florida authorities extradite him and lock him in a cage for the rest of his life. The loyalty that was once the defining hallmark of the 19 Kids and Counting brand has evaporated, replaced by a cutthroat, survival-of-the-fittest legal bloodbath. Look at the absolute tragedy of what this family has become. They preached about the sanctity of marriage. They preached about the unbreakable bond of family. They lectured the entire world for over a decade about their superior moral compass and their flawless Christian values. And now? Now you have a husband sitting in solitary confinement, facing unspeakable charges. You have a wife who allegedly trapped her own children in barren rooms with exterior locks, now using the family's own fixer attorney to blame her husband and walk away rich. You have a patriarch who is allegedly orchestrating this entire circus, funding the destruction of his own son's marriage just to protect his real estate portfolio and avoid public accountability. It is a level of hypocrisy so staggering, so deeply repulsive, that it almost defies belief. And right in the middle of it all is Travis' Story, the man who has profited off the Duggar family's constant legal peril for years. He is the common denominator in every single catastrophic failure this family has endured. He couldn't save Josh. He won't save Joseph. But he will absolutely make sure the checks are clear and the LLCs are properly registered before the ship finally sinks to the bottom of the ocean. He is the ultimate legal mercenary, and Kendra Duggar, the sweet, giggling girl with the perfect smile, just hired him to execute her husband. We are watching the final, agonizing death throes of the Duggar television dynasty in real time. There is no coming back from this. There is no PR spin, no sit-down interview with Megyn Kelly, no tearful YouTube apology video that can fix this. The illusion is dead. The unified front is a joke. It is every Duggar for themselves, clawing and scratching to escape the burning wreckage of Jim Bob's hubris. As the court dates approach, as the divorce filings become public record, and as the true horrors of what authorities found inside that Tontitown home are read into evidence, the entire world will finally see the absolute truth. The Duggar family was never a beacon of faith. They were a carefully constructed corporate entity, held together by fear, control, and money. And now that the money is threatened, the family is perfectly willing to eat its own. Is Jim Bob paying Travis' Story to help Kendra divorce Joseph and protect the family money? Let me know your wildest theories in the comments, and don't forget to like this video.